We welcome you to Chicago. It's game number 3 and the finale as the NL East leaders, the Washington Nationals, hit the road after this one as they take on the White Sox. Thanks for joining us once again. Jason Benetti, Steve Stone along with you. The Sox are under 500 for the very first time this year, 59 games deep, so they have shuffled the deck a little bit today, Stoney.
I think anytime a team is struggling, you look for some movement, and Rick Hahn didn't hesitate to make some moves today, and we'll take a look at them. Matt Latos, designated for assignment. He's 6-2, just wasn't throwing the ball real well, getting to the bullpen much too quickly. And Justin Morneau signed, and they talk about him being able to come back off the disabled list probably at the end of July. So we'll look at Justin Morneau. He's a powerful left-handed bat. The question is just exactly when he does his rehab, what he comes back with. The Sox are hoping that he can drive in some runs and give them a little more offense, which is something they desperately need, especially from the left side, and Tyler Danish is called up.
Yeah, Tyler Danish up from Double-A Birmingham. Meantime, today's pitching matchup, first time ever in Major League history, we have two Gonzalez's dueling.
A left-handed Gonzalez. We happen to have the right-handed Gonzalez, and we'll take a look first at Gio. He's been a member of the White Sox 2 different times, and this is against the Mets. He's lost his last 3. Not throwing it real well, and that really snapping curveball that he used to have, he doesn't have. Miguel Gonzalez, after spending 1 trip out of the bullpen, is back in the starting rotation. This was against the Mets when he threw 5 innings, only gave up 1 earned run. He threw the ball exceptionally well in that one. He's got good control, and hopefully tonight he gets it done. The Gonzalez versus Gonzalez, as you can see, career record against our Sox. Gio's had a problem. Last time out for Miguel was pretty good, actually, against the Mets. I thought he had terrific control. Unfortunately, he walked a few guys, but only 1 earned run. That's good.
Sox fishing for 500 once again, still just 3.5 back in the American League Central. We'll see what happens in the series finale coming up. The Nationals and the Sox just around the corner from U.S. Cellular Field. Chicago White Sox baseball is brought to you by Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner. Cheers. It's Miller time. Honda. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda now at your Honda dealer. Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Ford, America's best-selling brand 6 years running, inviting you to check out our fuel-efficient lineup at your local Ford store or at localfordstores.com. And by your Chicago and Northwest Indiana Hyundai dealers. Test drive their all-star lineup today. Visit buyhyundai.com. Back to U.S. Cellular Field, Game 3 coming up soon. The Sox and the Washington Nationals. And this week is a very special week for the White Sox. It is Sox Serve Week, benefiting Chicago White Sox charities. A number of events throughout the week benefiting Sox charities. And tonight is Players' Favorite Things baskets around the ballpark. And a couple of the players' wives chatted earlier about exactly what is inside of those baskets.
This night is really special because the fans are able to get a chance to know what the players are like off the field. So in each basket, there's a lot of autographed memorabilia in all the baskets, as well as what the guys like to do, hobbies, movies, some food, what they like to do off the field.
It's popular around the league. A lot of other teams are doing it as well. And it's just a fun opportunity to kind of get to know the players off the field a little bit more. We fill their baskets with some of their favorite things.
Alex loves grilling in the off season. Usually once a week we have some family members over and all the kids are in the pool and stuff like that. But he loves grilling, and so we have a lot of stuff like that in the basket.
This year, Adam's basket has a lot of game-issued, game-worn memorabilia. He has a bat that he used in a game, some batting gloves, there's a batting helmet in there, and a few other fun things, too, to bid on.
Every basket has a really cool autographs, so you know, those are always a hot commodity. And then Dan Jennings has a player experience, so you can kind of come on the field to meet him, which is pretty cool. And then there's some, in Kristen Duke, she put in her husband's basket, on Zach Duke's basket, there was a book that there was a chapter written about him, which is pretty neat as well. So a lot of cool items there to definitely come and check out.
A lot of neat stuff in those Players' Favorite Things baskets. Those are on sale tonight at the ballpark. And don't forget as well, there's a big auction coming up over the weekend, Saturday, the WGN TV Ultimate Auction. Bidding is open now at whitesox.com/ultimate auction. Some great experiences, including one with the broadcast team here, Steve Stone and I, and any number of other things that you can bid on, experiences here at U.S. Cellular Field. That'll come up on Saturday during the game, but bidding is now open. And first pitch coming up next. Baseball in high definition is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Sox fans just became big fans of the Miami Super Regional at 5 Eastern Friday night, 4 Central Time. Miami and Boston College will play. The Sox have just taken Miami catcher Zach Collins with their first pick in the MLB draft at number 10. Here's the starting lineup for tonight's game for Dusty Baker's Washington Nationals. Chris Heisey leads off in left field, his first appearance in the series. Bryce Harper had 3 hits last night. Jose Lobaton is in for Wilson Ramos, and all the way down to Michael Taylor in the 9 spots. Tony?
Let's take a look at the defense, and how Robin's going to line them up. It's the familiar outfield with Cabrera, Jackson, and Eaton. In the infield, Frazier, Saladino, Laurie, and Abreu. Deanna Navarro gets a nod behind the plate, and Miguel Gonzalez, after one stint in the bullpen, back in the starting rotation. Carlos Rodon was pushed back, and on for his 7th start, Miguel Gonzalez with normally good control, and he'll have to keep these Nationals in the ballpark, they had a lot of home runs. The umpires, Eric Cooper, who's a good pitcher's up with Jim Wolf, Nick Lentz, and Gary Cedarstrom around the infield.
We are ready for baseball here tonight. Gonzalez to face High C first, the 31-year-old former Cincinnati Red, who's been a pinch hitter extraordinaire, goes up after the first pitch tonight and pops it foul. Last we saw Miguel Gonzalez, it was Sunday out of the bullpen after Jose Quintana. Gonzalez went 1 1/3, pitched well, gave up 1 hit and struck 1 out in that 5-2 Tigers win for Justin Verlander. Boys, we told you in the open, there are a lot of things going on at the ballpark today. Matt Lato is designated for assignment. Tyler Danish up from Double-A Birmingham.
And hopefully he finds a pretty good spot, whether it's the bullpen or eventually the starting rotation. Sox could use him. And at this point, they have to have Miguel Gonzalez going deep into this ball game because the bullpen has been used and abused. And there's a look at Tyler Danish. Very excited about this one, yeah. But maybe he just read the draft pick, although I think it's a great pick. Zach Collins.
Fly ball from High C. Adam Eaton is under it. 1 down. You like Collins?
Yeah, I do, because the Sox need some left-handed power. And Zach Collins is all of that. He's got huge power. He's a very big man. They wanted him. They were hoping that he would be there at 10 when he was there, and they got him. So you'd have to say that it's a good pick, and I think they're going to be really happy with the way that this guy swings the bat. If he can refine his catching, so much the better, but he will be able to hit. There is absolutely no doubt about it.
First team All-American. Catcher for Jim Morris's very stable, very strong program down there in Coral Gables. Jason Worth is the hitter. He was 3 for 5 last night with a home run that came in the 8th, a 3-run shot. Check swing foul, 0-2.
Miguel throws his fastball anywhere from 91 to 93. He's come up with a cutter, which has really helped him against the left-handers. He's got a good split change that we've seen him use, and very effectively. And again, this is a power-hitting Washington team that hits a lot of home runs.
Not there. Strike 3. Gonzalez disposes of Worth, and 2 down in the first inning.
Hit the spot here, was on the outer part of the plate. We'll see where number 3 pops up. Good fastball at 92. Worth swings through it. So a good start. 2 up, 2 down. And coming back, you know, you move to the bullpen, but only for 1 appearance. So there's no pitch limitation. They don't have to stretch him out very much. He still can go as long as his ability is going to take him tonight.
2 down for Bryce Harper. And he looks at ball number 1.
A little surprised by the beautiful weather after what we saw all day today.
Yeah, it was rainy and rainy and rainy and rainy, and finally the tarp came off. What, about 5 o'clock here at the ball yard? I've forgotten how traffic gets in Chicago when there are even droplets of rain.
I think it was wise for you to leave at 1 o'clock so we could get to the ballpark by 4.
1-1 fouled away by Harper. You mentioned the home runs this Washington team can hit. Coming into play today, 81 homers, 4th most in Major League Baseball, and Harper has been a big part of that with 13 of them for Dusty Baker.
Harper's only hitting 257, but don't be fooled by that. He's going to hit a lot higher than that before it's over. He got off to a slow start. We haven't seen the slow start in this series, however.
Ball just sounds different off his bat. This is a fly ball to center that will do it for the inning. Harper retired. 2 flyouts and a strikeout. 1, 2, 3 for Gonzalez. No score after a half inning at U.S. Cellular Field. third. They go with this lineup: Eaton, Jackson, Abreu 1 through 3. Todd Frazier second with 19 home runs in the American League behind Mark Trumbo, all the way down to Saladino in the 9th position. Steve?
Let's take a look at the defense, and now Dusty is going to line them up behind Gio Gonzalez. It's Heisey, Taylor, and Harper in the outfield with Rendon, Espinosa, Murphy, and Zimmerman in the infield. Jose Lobaton and Gio Gonzalez, who's really struggled in his last 3 starts.
A 2-time former Chicago White Sox player. This ground ball leads Gio Gonzalez to the bag off the feed from Zimmerman. And one away. Adam Eaton, about 60% of his balls in play are ground balls. And he is out 1 away in the first, and you hope Adam's all right. Came up a little lame running down that first base line.
Let's hope he just hit the bag a little, well, maybe not quite as in stride as he would like, but right now he is not looking good as he kind of hobbles back. We'll take a look at that play at first again, and it's close, but Gonzalez gets there, and then he hits the bag in the middle of his foot, something that he usually doesn't do. Usually hits it with the front part of his foot, drags it across the bag, but didn't do it that time. We'll take another look, and hopefully he's okay.
See if he comes out to play defense in the top of the 2nd inning. Austin Jackson is down 0-2. He was 10 for his last 19 before an 0 for 5 yesterday. Jackson was.
Gonzalez has a very good changeup, and that's really become his primary pitch. He always had a big, hard-breaking curveball. Now he's throwing it less. His fastball is a little above average, but he has truly struggled. There is that breaking ball, stopped nicely by Lobaton.
Well, Gio Gonzalez, first-round pick in 2004, then was involved in a couple of major trades. He was offloaded originally in the Jim Thome deal. Foul ball from Jackson. Then traded with Gavin Floyd back to the Sox for Freddie Garcia. Then after that, went to Oakland for Nick Swisher. Ryan Sweeney, Faustino de los Santos also involved in that deal.
Well, anytime you can get a lefty with the kind of curveball that Gio had but doesn't have now, you're going to take a shot at him. There's Adam. And it appears that he is going to be okay.
Fouled off by Jackson. 61 strikeouts, 17 walks this year for Gio Gonzalez. And as you mentioned, command has at points in his career been an issue for him. 91 walks in 2011, 92 the year prior with Oakland.
Well, Mike Maddox changed his pitching delivery because he was having some problems with it. Then seemingly he got it for a bit, only to see it slip away once again. The last 3 starts have been somewhat disastrous, and he walks Jackson, so that's a promising start to bring up a guy who's been swinging it pretty well.
Yeah, 5-game hit streak for Abreu. He's 9 for his last 20. And he has been the bright spot offensively these last 5 games. The Sox have yet to win one of those games, but the cry even in New York was, when's Abreu going to turn it on? And he has in the last work week.
What we've seen from him is he starts to lay off the inside pitch, then he starts to hit line drives, and then he starts hitting the ball out of the ballpark. So we've seen him lay off the inside pitch. We've seen him start to hit line drives, and now, and he knows this too, he's a run producer. He's got to hit the ball out of the park and drive in runs, and if he does that ahead of Frazier, it's going to be a good middle of this lineup.
Oh, and 2, you know, you and I had talked so much about Abreu getting busted inside and thrown inside, and Fangraphs has these heat maps that you can look at online of where guys get thrown, and Abreu's fastballs in off the plate, inside fastballs that would be balls, were up as of the beginning of this series by about 33% from last year. He had seen even more pitches inside that were not going to be strikes than last season.
Well, he's been swinging at a whole lot of them early, and that's why the advanced scouts say go in there. And that was the key to him, because you know everybody's going to throw him breaking balls away. I mean, right-handers for sure are going to throw him curveballs and sliders away when they have to go get them. So if you're dealing with normally a 17-inch plate and suddenly becomes a 24, 25-inch plate, you can't defend both sides.
Ball and 2 strikes from Gio Gonzalez to Jose Abreu with Jackson at first. Ground ball foul by Abreu.
Jose had some interesting things to say in an article, and he talked about the character and how it shows itself when the team is going poorly, because you don't learn a lot of lessons when the team is going well. I mean, you just roll with it, you take the momentum, and it's not difficult when the team is really good. It gets difficult when the team is struggling. This team certainly has fallen into that category.
Up with a fastball, 2-2.
Love the fact that he laid off the high fastball. That was another trouble spot. So again, as the eye gets a bit better, his bat's going to come to life. It always has. You'd figure it always will. He's a prolific worker. He's a man with a lot of pride in his performance, and he knows exactly what his station on this team is and what he has to do.
2-2 from Gonzalez is buried. 3 balls, 2 strikes, back-to-back full counts from Gio Gonzalez.
But Jose said that the team has to stay together. It's pretty easy to do, again, when the team is winning. And he talks about that. He said, look, we had a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. The team was together in spring. They were together early. Now it's even more important than ever that the team stay together with the same attitude they had coming out of spring training and the same attitude they had when they were 23-10.
He walked. Abreu's on. Back-to-back bases on balls for Gio Gonzalez to bring up Todd Frazier. Time for our picks to click tonight in a key spot for the Sox. Our crew, John Walgren, Jim Angio, and the bunch going with Deanna Navarro. Steve, you've got Tyler Saladino, and I'll take Avi Garcia. The bottom of the order represented tonight. Picks to click.
I'll tell you how rare that walk was, and it's testament to the fact that Jose is seeing it well, is that he's walked for the 17th time in 231 at-bats, and there's a fine pitching coach, Mike Maddox. Done a great job since coming over. He's got a terrific pitching staff to work with, especially in the starting rotation.
2 on, 1 out, and a back shoe breaking ball is ball 1. Here's a surprising one. Gio Gonzalez, for the season, actually had, coming into the game, the lowest walks per 9 of any national starter, considering his control issues previously.
Well, wild in the strike zone is more devastating than just wild, because we've seen a lot of guys that are wild and then they make really good pitches when they have to and get hitters out. Wild in the strike zone means you're going to get pounded around pretty well. That's what we saw from James Shields last night. He admitted he had no feel. He would throw it in the zone, very hittable, fall behind hitters, and next thing you know, boom, it's gone.
2-0 on Frazier. And he swings through it. Gonzalez went away from the fastball. 2-1.
Well, that's his best pitch these days, and he decided to throw it behind, and top looking fastball all the way, went out to get it, and it just disappeared.
Sprayed to center field, and Taylor is there to throw to second for not the second out of the play. Murphy couldn't hang on. Jackson is back.
Taylor has good instincts in center field, and this is a rocket. Todd reaches down, but unfortunately Taylor is right there. It looked like it was going to be a double play, but fortunately Murphy dropped it.
Could have been 2. Instead, the inning continues, and the former New York Met Daniel Murphy has to stay out there at second base rather than get his first at bat of the night.
Michael Taylor can fly in center field. Talking with Dusty Baker about him, he said that he's young enough in his career where he wanders mentally sometimes, but the sky's the limit with his ability. He's big, he's strong, and he's very fast.
Breaking ball ripped to right center field. Taylor lays out, can't get there. Melky Cabrera drops it in. Jackson scores. Here comes Abreu. This is a 2-run double to crack the scoring tonight, and the Sox lead.
RBIs 26 and 27 as Melky from the right side delivers a slicing double into right center field. This year he's been a better hitter, and there's that curveball that Gonzalez is having all kinds of problems with. Melky hitting .316 coming in right-handed. Taylor lays out, cannot get to it, can't stop it, and an early lead for Miguel Gonzalez.
Sox take advantage of the 2 walks here in the first inning. And Melky drives in a pair to bring up Brett Lawrie and prolong the first. They're going to appeal to third. And safe the call by Gary Cederstrom.
Unlike challenges, you don't lose anything when you appeal and you don't get the call. But I like what you said about Melky before the game, about your evaluation of his talent.
Yeah, you know, when you watch a guy over and over again, you get a different feel than from afar. And he is really, as Lawrie smokes this one down the left field line. Melky's on his way to the dish, and Brett Lawrie has his team leading 16th double. It's 3-0.
He drives in run number 22. And first pitch, fastball, inner portion, and rifled into the corner. So this is going to bring Mike Maddox out from the dugout to have a visit with his struggling left-hander. He was struggling coming in 3 straight starts. He's been pelted early in this one. 2 walks have led to 3 runs. And the Sox on the board early.
Brett Lawrie says, "Let's go, baby." And it's 3-0 Sox. But to the point on Melky Cabrera, you watch somebody from a distance, you don't get to see him every day. He's a more complete player than I expected, having watched pieces of games throughout the last couple of years.
And what's happened this year with him is he's become a little better from the right side. Normally much more effective as a left-hand hitter, not so this year. But Melky is consistent. What you do have to like about him in the outfield, does he have great speed? No. But he's got a very good and very accurate arm, so he becomes a factor in left field. And this year, when he's out of the lineup, the Sox feel it. He's not out of the lineup very much.
Javi Garcia takes ball number 1. The one thing the Sox have done consistently this year, and we've talked about it before, is see a lot of pitches. About 4 per plate appearance. That's 9th best in baseball. And this first inning, it has paid off thoroughly with 2 walks. Then Lawrie jumps on the first pitch to drive in the 3rd run. And Gonzalez is out of sorts.
Yeah, you got 3 straight line drives, and the release point for Gio Gonzalez just isn't there. And sometimes it's very difficult to find. So he had it, and then he went away from what Mike Maddox was talking to him about. Now he's lost it again, much to the delight of the Sox hitters.
There's a strike at 92 from Gio Gonzalez, pitch number 25 of this first inning.
We've seen this number play out, and if you have these numbers, you're not going to win. Gio Gonzalez has an OPS, on base plus slugging, of 1.274 with runners in scoring position over the last month. League average is .738. Those numbers will kill you.
3-2 on Javi Garcia, who was 2 for 4 last night. simply means you're not making big pitches in big spots, right?
With runners in scoring position, not getting the ground balls you need to get out of innings. You're obviously putting yourself in a situation where you're very vulnerable.
Tapper back to the hill. Gio Gonzalez retires the side, but the Sox hop on him here in the first inning. 3 runs. Melky Cabrera spearheads it, and the Sox have the lead after 1. The second inning for the Nats from D.C. trailing 3-0. The Sox out in front early, and Miguel Gonzalez trying to keep it right there with ball 1 high. First on Murphy, who's just 1 for 7 in the series, but has walked a couple of times and been hit by a pitch 2 nights ago.
That one was a big one. He took a ball off the ground against James Shields.
Golf to left center. Austin Jackson on the case. 1 down. Come out to U.S. Cellular Field on select Fridays this season and get 2 outfield reserve tickets and 2 food or drink items for just $49. Each ticket you purchase will include $8 in bonus bucks. More than enough to cover your first soda, beer, hot dog, or sausage. Visit WhiteSox.com/first for more information or to order today.
72 degrees at the ballpark. It's turned into a beautiful evening, and especially so with 3 runs in the first.
Just feels warmer when you score early. You feel warmer when it scores early.
There's no doubt. So the Sox got Zach Collins and 3 runs in the first inning. Zach Collins, big catcher from Miami.
The University of Miami. There's a strike to Zimmerman.
There's a young fan stunned by the 3 early runs.
That's a young Matt Perk right there. He's got Matt Perk's glasses. Ball and 2 strikes.
Well, if he's a left-handed pitcher, it'll hold him in fine fettle. You remember that, don't you?
Yeah, it's like fiddle faddle. 1-2 on Zimmerman from Gonzalez. And there's an opportunity here for Miguel Gonzalez as well. Matt Lato is designated for assignment. Tyler Danish is up. And Gonzalez thrust back into the rotation where he's pitched, in your estimation, pretty well.
Yeah,
right?
I think he's thrown pretty well. 2 times against Kansas City, the timeout against the Mets, where he gave up just 1 run in 5. And certainly there's a spot to be had. And he's a veteran. He knows that.
When we were in Toronto, that was his first start. And the Blue Jays got to him early. But he kept them off the scoreboard throughout the middle innings to keep the Sox in the game. The offense rallied. And got a couple more starts out of it. Now part of the rotation, at least for the time being. 3-2 to third. Frazier a little surprised by it. Still makes the play. 2 away.
Sometimes you just have to give some ground, and Todd Frazier knows that Zimmerman can't run. So he's able to take a step back. This is a one-hop rocket. Takes that step back, knows he's got all kinds of time, and gets it across in plenty of time.
Smooth fielder for a big guy.
You're going to have great hands to play third. You don't need speed. You need first step quickness. Todd's got that, and he also comes in very well to make those plays on the choppers and the bunts.
2 down for Rendon. And he eyes ball number 1 just outside.
He was really struggling for the season coming in, but had been hot lately, and in this series he's gotten hotter.
26-year-old Rendon takes strike 1 and 1. 4 of his 6 homers have come since May 24th.
For him, the magic day was May 10th because he's been hitting about 340 or in excess of that since May 10th.
Tied him up 1 and 2.
He's a good player for them, and he should be because he was a #1 draft pick. We'll take a look at location. The ball drifts back over the outside corner.
Ball and 2 strikes. He got him. Strike 3. Chipped away at the outside corner and expanded it for the final one. 3-0 Sox after 1.5. Joining the White Sox today, he's on the disabled list right now, and here's Rick Hahn telling us about what he'll have to go through to get active.
Justin's going to start swinging the bat here under our supervision in the coming days. He's probably going to travel with us on the next trip, and then we'll go from there. At some point there will be a rehab assignment, and once there's a rehab assignment, we'll be able to give you probably a firmer prediction as to his return, but we anticipate it being sometime in July and potentially mid to late July.
Navarro with a ground ball foul of third, 0-2 on the Sox catcher. But on Morneau, a former AL MVP, that was 10 years ago with Minnesota. Last year with Colorado, 182 plate appearances, and the hope is low risk, see if he can find a piece of what he had before. Gio Gonzalez holds the line, and Navarro is out. Your thoughts on Morneau?
Well, the Sox have needed some left-handed power. When Justin Morneau has been healthy, he's provided left-handed power. It's really a no-lose situation in that if you get something out of him, anything, what you're paying is minimal by standards these days. It's $1 million, and you might catch lightning in a bottle. If you can do that, and the Sox are going to have to do that with a few people, Morneau is just one of them. He was very good at a lot of times in his career. He's had some back issues. Everybody knows that. And so you take a chance. This one is not a very expensive chance. The upside is great. The downside is very, very little.
Well, right now, the injury that he's been dealing with is rehab from offseason elbow surgery. It was flexor surgery this offseason for Morneau. 1-2 on Saladino, but the Sox have made a bunch of these types of moves. Matt Lato's designated for assignment. They got something out of him the first month of the year, and that declined to the point where they decided to designate him. Today, Austin Jackson has been very good in center field, and Saladino goes down swinging 2 away, and Jimmy Rollins still on the team playing shortstop about half the time.
You know, you got to find some answers, and looking for answers in a lot of different places. The Sox realize that they've got some ground to make up. When you're in the throes of a losing streak and a spell, as the Sox have had at 6-20, everything looks so bleak sometimes that it's hard to look up and realize that you were as good as you were at one point.
But popped foul by Eaton.
Yeah, but the Sox were that good for 33 games. Lately, things have deteriorated. However, if the starting rotation starts to pick it up to protect the bullpen, and I think they can do that, things will change drastically. The best part of what you're looking at, the standings, is that no team has taken off and is running away with it. If any team had put together a spell where they won 15 of 20, they would look vastly different. So after struggling, you're 3.5 games back. At this point of the season, very easy to make those up just as quickly as it went from 6 up to 3.5 back. It can drift back the other way. The question will be for the Sox, can they win in their division, which has been something that's tough to do, and we'll see that coming up.
Yeah, with Kansas City in this weekend, Detroit to follow, then at Cleveland. Those 3 teams above. If you get hot now, that changes things. But again, the Sox are 6-0 against Minnesota, 3-12 against the rest of the Central, and that's part of why the standings have flipped. You win a couple more of those, it looks different. Eaton a check swing, and he did go around. Strike 3, says the third base umpire Gary Cederstrom. So 1-2-3 inning for Gio Gonzalez. 3-0 Sox after 2. Thanks to a 2-run Melky Cabrera double and an RBI double for Brett Lawrie, both in the first inning. So 3-zip as Danny Espinosa appears. It's a very small but successful patch against Miguel Gonzalez at 2 for 3. It's a curveball for ball number 1.
We do know from both sides of the plate, although he's not hitting for much of an average, he does have some big power.
He's been rather tricky to get out this series. Danny Espinosa is 5 for 10 with a couple of doubles. He's driven in 3 in the first 2 games, 4 runs scored.
I think Washington was disappointed that he started out for average like he did, but 9 home runs, 24 driven in. Those are pretty good numbers at this stage of the season.
Does take some big rips up there.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things Dusty said about him, was that he does have big power from both sides. What he'd like to see is when he gets to 2 strikes, he would like to see him shorten his swing somewhat. Don't try to hit every ball 500 feet. You have to sometimes hit it where it's pitched. To do that, and cutting down on your strikeouts is going to be a big factor if he wants to get that batting average up.
Well, we talked about it briefly last night. He's never hit 250 in a full major league season. He's never been a big average hitter, but they know about the defense and they know about his versatility on the infield as well.
Yep. Well, he played second base for quite some time, and then Ian Desmond was allowed to go other places, which shifted Espinosa, who was a shortstop, back to shortstop. If Miguel wants to go to that straight change, he's probably going to get him, because there's no doubt Espinosa is very much geared for the fastball. He will expand his zone. He will swing it a lot of pitches out of the zone, and let's see how he tries to attack him here.
2-2. He runs outside with a fastball. 3-2 for Espinosa.
Yanner wanted the fastball. He wanted it away. It was too far away, and Espinosa did not go after it.
Lovely night for baseball after some rain earlier today. Leadoff man, 3rd inning, 3-2. He got him, strike 3, 3rd punch out for Miguel Gonzalez.
That was 94. That's the fastest pitch he's thrown tonight. You probably don't want to stay here to Espinosa, which is pretty much down the middle. However, it was high enough where he swung through it. So 3 strikeouts. He's retired 7.
And here is Jose Lobaton, the 31-year-old catcher, sort of a journeyman type. Started with the San Diego Padres, then came through Tampa, now Washington.
Well, he does have what a lot of backup catchers would like to have, and that is swinging the bat from the left side. Especially when your starting catcher, Ramos, is right-handed. You want that backup to be left-handed, and Lobaton is that.
Left-hand side, Melky has not enough room, and look out down that line. Ball and a strike. Lobaton has all of his hits this year, all 8 of them against right-handed pitching. He is 0 for 9 against lefties.
He was married at home plate in Tropicana Field.
Not during a game.
No, actually in the morning.
Not during a day game.
Could very well be. He was married by a notary. So apparently they had to legally sign something to get married besides the license. Carlos Pena, fine first baseman in his long career, was his best man.
Saladino circles on it and throws out Lobaton, 2 away. Well, earlier today, the Sox went and visited the Ronald McDonald House, the one near Lurie Children's Hospital, and Chris Sale was there to throw some pitches to some youngsters. That's little Pat McGann, little Elliot McGann taking some swings. Matt Perk there to help. an awesome dude named Jace, and Chris Sale, Zach Duke were there to teach the kids southpaw as well. He's the biggest fan favorite of them all, though. You get the furry creature in front of the kids.
It's pretty good.
Chris Sale was pitching to his son. Rylan was there. Sale, Chris that is, the first pitch he threw, Rylan just smoked him with it. I mean, it's a young kid, and he already can hit. So maybe draft day in about, I don't know, 18 years or so. Pick another Sale. 2.5 deep. 3-0 Sox.
Manage the game along with Robin by logging on to WGNTV.com and click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner for the latest stats and information. Sox Game Zone is powered by Dodd Camera, family owned for 125 years, handling all your photographic needs. Dodd Camera, where the focus is on you.
You know, we've already figured out YouTube for you, and you're tweeting now, but I still think the whole camera function of your phone is something we should attack maybe in July. Fly ball right center. Michael Taylor motors over. One away.
I'm actually pretty good at that, but those exploding flashes, you know, where you have to hold the handle and then it explodes, that's not so great.
Yeah, for like the 1940s, those early cameras that you're talking about?
Actually, a bit earlier than that,
yeah.
yes. Yeah. But other than that, it's really good.
What? I suddenly feel a Lincoln joke coming on. One down for Abreu.
You should hear my material from the Hoover administration.
Still being vacuumed up. Abreu walked and scored the first inning. Melky Cabrera, a 2-run double, brought plateward both Abreu and Jackson. Sox are up 3-0 against their former teammate. Twice a White Sox player, Gio Gonzalez.
Outfield fairly straight away, as is the infield. We've seen a lot of times they keep the right side open to Jose, but not against the left-hander.
You know, we went to break at the top of the third. We were talking about the Ronald McDonald House near Lurie Children's Hospital, and you saw the kids playing on the rooftop. That was a field that was actually designed by some White Sox folks and their design team. And just watching that today and seeing the kids after the players were gone run around the house. I was there about 15 minutes afterward. They were running around the house saying this is the best thing that's happened in a long time. It was really a great day.
Oh, you could tell by the expression on the young kids' faces how, number one, how thrilling it was. Number two, well, they get to learn baseball from some guys who are pretty good at it. Southpaw, you're right. Apparently making a ton of friends. The big left-hander.
Can't compete in the friend department with southpaws. Down goes Abreu on a hook. 2 down. I mean, first of all, Southpaw is a really affable guy. Second of all, he's furry and bright. So kids they're gonna gravitate to both Southpaw and Chris Sale, who pitched twice today. He was in first, then was subbed out and came back in.
Well, you've got to convince his offspring to pull the ball. Don't hit it back at the pitcher. Pitchers hate that.
I mean, the ball that his son hit off of him was just zapped. Ball and a strike on Frazier, and to close that story, I had 3 or 4 people come up to me while Chris Sale was talking to the other kids, and they said he is one of the most genuine people I've ever seen. I was just standing in the area around him talking to some of the kids and the families, and it was neat to watch everybody, Chris and Zach Duke and the Sox players. Matt Perk was there as well. Actually, a couple hours before he was designated for assignment, Matt Latos was there too. 2 balls, 2 strikes for Frazier. 2 down, 3rd inning, and the Sox up with a 3-run first.
That's exactly where Lobaton wanted it. He wanted a high fastball out of the zone. Todd was able to foul it off and stay alive.
Well, Todd Frazier has been a 2-strike hunter this year, leading the league in 2-strike homers. That is a nasty breaking ball from Gio Gonzalez. And a 1-2-3 inning for the left-hander. After 3-0 Sox. Miguel Gonzalez with a first pitch in the top of the 4th. That misses to Chris Heisey. 9 up, 9 down for Gonzalez thus far. 3 strikeouts to his name. Ball and a strike. That one at 92 on the swing and a miss from Heisey.
Heisey's been pretty versatile over the course of his career. He's modeled a few different uniforms, and he can play a lot of different positions. That's why he's still around.
A lot of movement there. Changeup
Yeah,
blowing in.
that was a real good change. That acts as both a splitter and a change, and that one dove inside. When you're looking fastball and you get one of these, you don't have much of a shot. Good movement and good late movement.
So it's a changeup that serves as a splitter. You throw it like the normal changeup?
No, your fingers are wider apart.
He got him, strike three. Caught him looking down in the zone.
That was a perfect pitch. Heisey at first didn't think about it, but Eric Cooper has had always a pitcher's strike zone. Now this one had the whole plate. So Gonzalez, 10 in a row retired. And 4 of them via the strikeout.
3 flyouts, 3 groundouts. Last flyout was in the 2nd inning. And here's Jason Worth, who punched out last time. Well, the Nationals 2 nights ago 10 runs. Last night 11 runs. And the Sox lost both of those games, but leading 3-0 tonight. 86. That was a little more up than he wanted, it seemed.
Another straight change, and it was not location, it was velocity that fooled Worth. And last time up, he struck him out on a fastball away. There's the change.
Back to the fastball, 1-2.
Excellent control so far by Miguel Gonzalez, moving everything around and getting everything over the plate.
High fastball struck him out. Miguel Gonzalez mowing down the Nats.
5 strikeouts. This time it was elevation. He throws it up in the eyes of Worth. No contact.
So now Harper. Boy, that ball is really disappearing on the Nationals hitters so far.
On base percentage of .409 for a guy off to a slow start average wise. That's pretty good.
Breaking ball, strike 2.
Hey, Chicagoland viewers. The 3rd inning was brought to you by Subway and their triple play promotion. Text Subway to 97999 right now, and a 300th texter will win a $30 gift card to Subway restaurants in the Chicagoland area. Subway, fresh is what we do.
Harper had the willpower to lay off the changeup. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Shift in the infield, but the outfield playing him straight away. We've seen him bunt in this series. Not in order now.
He also doubled down that left field line last night. Right into the shift. Thank you, Bryce. Laurie to Abreu in a 1-2-3 inning. The 4th of the night for Miguel Gonzalez. Bottom 4 next. 3-0 Sox. Sox Math is next. Prizes here on the prize shelf, including this ribbon from the fine folks at Oriole Park Elementary that we talked about, that's signed by 3 of the teachers.
And there's another big prize, and that is the Sox Serve Mystery Baseball. Now, in there can be anybody on the team's autograph, and you just never know what might be in there. So if you were going to have to pay for that, it would be $40, which would be an absolutely wonderful price. Of course, with the ability to not choose the dog or the gnome, this becomes a very nice pick.
Well, we had somebody last night win the 25th anniversary print that we had on the prize shelf, so that's gone. The Abreu plush doll is still there.
And, of course, the Altoids.
Oh,
of course.
We send more Altoids to people across the country than I think the actual maker.
Yeah, well, improving the breadth across the United States with the prize shelf.
2 balls and a strike, and Melky with a pop-up. Right side of the infield, Zimmerman hops into position. And you win something off the prize shelf by playing Sox Math. Using the hashtag SoxMath on Twitter, first one in wins a prize. Take the number of letters in the name of tonight's home team, the full name, divide by the number of the position played by Jose Abreu, multiply Adam Eaton's age, and add the total number of home games the White Sox have finished this season. Hashtag SoxMath. First correct answer wins a prize. And if you are so inclined, the SoxMath question will be on Twitter as well. You know, I tried last night to tweet during the 4th inning to show the fans what the SoxMath question was.
Yes.
And I tried to do it from my phone, and I messed it up, and it tweeted in like the 9th inning. So very difficult for people to play 5 innings too late.
Well, they would have come in 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, obviously.
Well, if you're not
maybe
first,
5th.
you're last.
Yeah. If you're not the lead dog, the view's the same.
0-2 for Laurie. And he sweeps through that swing for strike 3 and 2 down here in the 4th inning. We'd like to remind you that coming up at U.S. Cellular Field this Saturday, June 11th, the White Sox take on the Kansas City Royals. Join us. The first 20,000 fans receive a White Sox Hawaiian shirt presented by Beggar's Pizza. Visit whitesox.com to purchase your ticket today. Ukuleles sold separately.
Well, those are some fine-looking shirts. And I love Hawaiian shirts. You know that I have a few, some from the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
And today.
And, well, yeah.
I tell you what, I think that Hawaiian shirt is my favorite thing that we've given away so far this year.
It's a good one.
Ball to strike on Avi Garcia, who bounced down to Gio Gonzalez in the 1st. And there's the man who caused some problems for the Sox last night, Max Scherzer.
He has 2 different color eyes, and they both were working last night as he went 7, gave up 5 hits, no runs, fanned 6, walked 1, and was in command. He's won the league's best a couple of years ago, went 21-3 with the Tigers, winning the Cy Young Award. The author of 2 no-hitters, and by the way, the man behind the plate, Eric Cooper, was behind the plate for both Mark Burley's first no-hitter and his perfect game. Same umpire behind the plate. So Mark Burley would love to be able to pitch tonight, but he couldn't outdo Miguel Gonzalez, who's been brilliant through 4.
Eric Cooper, number 56, by the way.
Joe DiMaggio fan, obviously.
A Burley fan, maybe too.
Could very well be.
He wore 56 at that point. By the way, with Scherzer, with the 2 separate colored eyes, what do you put on your driver's license?
Mixed.
I don't think that's an option. Never asked me. Rendon to Zimmerman for the final out. Gio Gonzalez is sent away 10 consecutive, but he trails 3-0. Sox with the lead.
The fifth inning is brought to you by Fifth Third Bank, the curious bank.
Always asking questions. Inquisitive. Here's Daniel Murphy, and he looks at strike number one. He flied out to center his first time. Miguel Gonzalez has faced the minimum so far. Ball and a strike. Daniel Murphy, coming into tonight, was 6th in Major League Baseball in a stat they call BABIP, batting average on balls in play. So of the balls in play, he's hitting .391 so far this year before his first at bat. And sometimes people would say about that, well, it's bound to come back to the mean, right? You're not going to sustain that for the year because some of it's luck.
Well, yeah, but it also depends on how well you're squaring it up. And Murphy has been squaring it up quite a bit.
To the second part of that point, he's 7th best in baseball in the least soft contact, as they measure, the folks at Fangraphs do, by exit velocity. So only 12% of his balls in play are soft contact. So exactly what you said. He's hitting the ball hard. In the air, right field. Eaton going back. Adam Eaton at the wall, and Murphy hits it hard again. It's gone. First run tonight for the Nationals. First base runner as well. It's 3-1.
Home run number 11, RBI number 39, and Daniel Murphy gets one up in the zone. It's a towering fly ball that just kept on going.
Ball one to Ryan Zimmerman, who grounded out to third his first time up.
Well, that's what the Nationals do just about as well as anybody around, and that's hit the ball out of the park. Fortunately, no walks ahead of time. And so you can live with a leadoff home run. You can live with a couple solo shots. In this case, it's a good thing the Sox jumped on Gio Gonzalez early, because the last three, Gio has gotten the release point and is throwing some zeros up there.
So Daniel Murphy with home run number 11.
And adding Murphy from the Mets was a pretty good deal for the Nationals, because they took away from the Mets and added to their ball club, and he changed his entire approach last year under Kevin Long, who changed his lead foot. It's worked out very well for him, because since then he's done nothing but hit.
Right field again. Adam Eaton on the move. Very calmly has out number one. Zimmerman retired. Here's your Sox math answer for tonight. Chicago White Sox 15 letters. Abreu plays 3, first base. Multiplied by 27, Adam Eaton's age. And the total number of home games the Sox have completed this year is 27 as well. The answer is 162. White Sox Dom is the winner. Congratulations to White Sox Dom. A lot of correct answers tonight, but he was in first. And you win something off the prize shelf. Your pick. We'll send you whatever we want, though.
Yes, but you can pick anything you want.
One down for Rendon, who takes strike one. What was different in that Murphy sequence as compared to the first?
What he used to do was use a high leg kick, and now he pretty much lifts his foot up, puts it right back down in the same place, and for whatever reason he's able to stay back on everything.
Another fly ball, this one to Melky's area, 2 down.
And what any hitting coach or any hitter will tell you is, if you don't get your weight moving forward, you're going to be in good shape. It's your weight, it's your hands. If they move forward, you're going to have a hard time with anybody. You're going to be between. You're not going to be able to catch up to the fastball. You're probably going to be late on the changeup, and that's a bad place to be. So now Murphy is able to keep his weight back. Every hitter does it a different way. There are different keys to each hitter. Sometimes something works. When it works, you go with it until it stops working. With Murphy, from the postseason last year and what he started out this year, it's working exceptionally well.
2 down for Espinosa. There is ball number 1. You hear so many players. I mean, in spring training, clubhouses are rife with guys who say, I'm going to make this adjustment, I'm going to make that adjustment, I'm going to make this adjustment. And Murphy has carried it to a huge contract and great success.
Well, normally what has to happen is you have to hit rock bottom. And Murphy wasn't at rock bottom, but he was convinced by Kevin Long, the Mets hitting instructor, that he could be a better hitter than he had shown to that point. Well, it's hard for a guy who's had a lot of luck and success in his career to accept that. He did. He tried it. Worked out well. He's still using it. And the ability to adapt over the course of a career is something that all major league hitters have to do. Pitchers the same way. You got to make adjustments to the aging process. If you don't, you're going to find yourself without a whole lot of success as you move along through the years, the innings, and the normal aging process, because it's a game of attrition. Nature will take something away from you every year. It's up to you through adjustment to make sure that you get it back one way or another.
Center field, Austin Jackson makes the call, and Eaton scoots in to make the play. I got a follow-up for you on that, though.
Okay.
Because if you adjust away from what's great, you might hurt yourself. We'll find out what you mean by that after this. 3-1 Sox.
Checking an official White Sox debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/White Sox to learn more. Wintrust Community Bank, member FDIC.
5th inning, 3-1 Sox with the lead, and Deanna Navarro takes a ball. So before the break, you were talking about players having to adjust late in their careers.
No, as they move along through the aging process.
Well, right later.
Yeah. Well, we're sure. Okay.
Well, if you're aging, it's not going to be earlier in your careers.
No, not normally. Some guys age at different rates.
All the people that say we're a married couple are right now.
Okay.
2-0 on Navarro, and a foul ball. As the aging process goes on, how do you figure out what to adjust and what to keep the same? Because you don't want to panic and change something that got you there. You're there for a reason.
Well, what hitters do is in batting practice or when they hit in the cage, they work on various things, see what feels good and what doesn't. So that's adjustments to make.
Right field, Bryce Harper, very early in his career, out number 1.
And what pitchers should do is every time they have a side session, every time they're between starts, or if they're guys who work out of the bullpen when you're throwing just to throw, you always try to do something to make you better, to give you a different look. Guys who don't have a cutter will play around with a cutter. Guys who don't have a real good changeup will try a different grip. You're always doing that. You don't take it into the game right away, but you use it on the sidelines. And so sometimes you'll find something, it works well. And this is not just because you're older, but it works well because you're doing something different. You know, with all of the video these days, everybody knows what each pitcher throws, how many times he throws it, what percentage of the time he throws it, and everything else about it. If you give them a different look, number one, the advanced scouts are going to put it in their scouting reports, give guys something to worry about that they didn't have to worry about before. So you always change, unless you're just overwhelming all the time and then you're Bryce Harper or Mike Trout. But most normal people actually change. Those guys aren't normal people. They came in so incredibly successful at such an early stage that, you know, their careers have been remarkable. But they're, you know, once in a generation players.
You're speaking for normal people now?
Normal people. Yes.
Outside, 3 balls and a strike on Saladino.
This is going to surprise you.
Yep.
But I'm not going to get to it right now. But I have a philosophy about that.
About normal people?
No, about composition of the major leagues.
3-2.
After Tyler hits. Because I think he's an example of what I'm going to tell you.
Okay. It's a tease within a tease. 3-2. Popped it up. Right side. No room.
Okay, so here's how the major league is broken down.
Said after Tyler.
Yeah, well, he hit a foul ball. 10% of the people have star and superstar talent. 10% of the people are interchangeable with the minor leagues. Leaves you 80% of the people with essentially the same talent. The people that harness the mental aspect of competition are the people that are successful. They're performing at the top end of the 80% instead of the bottom end. If you can harness the mental processes, you will be successful. The problem is this. People will work consistently. Most of the time, they will work on the physical aspect of the game of baseball when everybody will tell you that the game is 75% mental. Doesn't make any sense to work on the physical aspect when the game is 75% mental. We're getting better at it, but we're not quite there yet.
You're talking about these moments when you're in a slump. How do you get out of it? That type of thing, right?
It's not necessarily that, but you don't feel great every day. Nobody does. And learning how to be successful at less than your best is the key to performing over 162 games. Very long season. You have days when you just don't feel it, but you still have to go out there and be successful. That's between your ears.
This is between the fielders. 1 out single for Saladino. As part of Sox Serve Week, the White Sox wives will be auctioning off baskets of their husbands' favorite things during tonight's game. Baskets include autographed items, gift cards, and other favorite things. All proceeds support Chicago White Sox charities. Bid on your favorite basket by calling the White Sox wives at 312-674-5684. Baskets upon baskets upon baskets of favorite stuff. Raindrops on roses, whiskers on kittens.
Oh, please don't break into song. It was tough enough on the drive here with the way you sent me. Which was, did you try purposely to pick out the traffic jams, or was it just popped up on your phone?
Eaton takes high and in. Ball number 1. In other news, very nice of Katie Eaton to stop by upstairs before the game to chat about Adam's stuff in his favorite things basket. Eaton flips it down the line. Heisey had him played well, but not well enough. It gets down for a hit. 2 on, 1 out.
Slicing away from Heisey, who was shallow and over toward the line, just not quite shallow or over to the line enough. dropping well in fair territory, and it would behoove the boys to put a few more points up on the board, because this Washington team can score them in bunches, as we've seen. And a golden opportunity here in the 5th, the first time Sox have had an opportunity since the first inning.
So 2 on, 1 out. Austin Jackson, who's 0 for 1 with a fly out and a run scored after that walk in inning number 1. Ball 1 from Gio Gonzalez to Austin Jackson, who's hit a lot of line drives this year. He's actually 2nd in Major League Baseball in line drive percentage.
Well, his batting average was in the 2 teens, and now he's gotten it up a whole lot higher. But you'd have to think that he's actually making better contact than that, as those numbers would illustrate.
That ball is smashed right at Murphy for out number 2.
Unfortunately, some more tough luck for Austin Jackson as he crushed that ball, but Murphy to his left, able to make the play. Heads up base running on the part of both of the base runners, both Saladino and Eaton. Easy to get doubled off if you're not really all that aware, and they both got back, leaving Murphy with no play.
So Saladino at 2nd, Eaton at 1st. 2 down for Jose Abreu, who also walked and scored back in the 1st inning on that Melky Cabrera 2-run double. Strike 1. What would be in a Steve Stone favorite things basket? I've been wondering.
A real good book, because I read a lot of those. Fiction, mostly. Golf balls, they would be very cheap ones. Probably a Whopper from Burger King. Now, it might get a little soggy depending on how long we keep the baskets around, but that's one of my favorite things.
We tend to try to keep perishables out of
there?
the baskets.
Because, yeah, if I could get, you know, one of the big beef sandwiches from Portillo's in there, that would be good.
Ball and a strike on Abreu. Foul, 1 and 2.
Before you eviscerated my poor dog Larry last night, I would have had something from him.
I
But
did nothing of the sort.
Poor departed Larry.
I may be departing if this conversation continues.
See, I told you I wouldn't bring that up.
Ball and 2 strikes on Abreu. 2 on, 2 out, 5th inning. Gonzalez comes home. High fastball clobbered foul.
Jose able to stay alive. The book has always been, if you get ahead, throw it up and out of the strike zone. The first time up, when he drew that walk, he laid off of pitches up and pitches down. It set the stage for a 3-run first inning. And there you see where the pitch location is, except for that breaking ball down and in. He stayed up with everything.
Checked it up. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
And there is Miguel, who's got a lead, throwing it as well as he could possibly throw it, giving up just 1 hit. The home run by Murphy, leading off the 5th. And looking for a little help here.
2 and 2, 2 down. Swinging again on off-speed stuff from Gio Gonzalez. 2 stranded, 2-run lead after 5. 3-1. The Sox with the lead over the Nationals, who have just one hit, a home run from Daniel Murphy. And Miguel Gonzalez to Jose Lobaton with strike one. This the first ever meeting of starting pitchers named Gonzalez in the same game in Major League history.
That's pretty amazing when you consider over the years how many players named Gonzalez we've had.
Yeah, but currently,
you tell me there's very few around the major leagues these days.
Well, this is 40% of the Gonzalez's active currently in Major League Baseball. All on the same field. Last time in interleague play, two players with the same last name faced each other at all was June 20th, 2009. It's only the second time it's ever happened. First time was June 20th of 09. Jared and Jeff Weaver, and of course they're related.
Yes, brothers. So Zach Birdie, a right-handed pitcher from University of Louisville, picked at number 26 in the first round by the Sox.
And Jose Lobaton christens the 6th inning with a single to right. Well, coming into the draft, so many people wanted a Louisville guy to show up on the Sox list of draftees. That was Corey Ray, who came through the ACE program through the Sox. He went 5th to Milwaukee. So Zach Birdie, a hard-throwing right-hander for Dan McDonald's program down there, goes to the Sox at 26 with that 49th pick still coming up.
And a right-handed starter is certainly what the organization could use, especially a big right-handed starter.
So after the second hit for Washington, Michael Taylor to bat. We said it yesterday, and Nick Hostetler was here echoing that this is a pretty deep draft this year.
They don't have the slam dunk number ones that Strasburg and Harper were.
Trouble brewing for the Nationals as Cabrera goes up the gap to get it. Lobaton's on his way to third. He is safe. Behind the play, Taylor to second.
That's unfortunately a throw that you probably don't want to make. Now, we'll take a look and see is Todd Frazier, who usually when he asks for a review, feels that he made the play. But it's a dangerous throw because you let the trailer go into second base in a 2-run game. And let's see if Melky got him. Lobaton does not have good speed. We'll look at it from a different angle.
I think so. I think they got him. This is a challenge. Sox are going to challenge the call at third.
Well, normally when Todd asks for a challenge, and he's done it very infrequently, but he feels that he's right on.
Well, he got him pretty quickly on the shoe, so let's see what New York says. It's close play.
Yeah, I think.
You think he's safe?
Yeah, I think he was, or maybe not definitive proof. You think he got him? Well, we'll see. We'll just see in New York, and you just have to hope that the guys in New York see enough to call him out.
Yeah, essentially you need, again, we've talked about it, clear and convincing evidence to overturn, definitive proof to overturn, and that's one of those that
might be one of those calls that whatever the call on the field was is upheld, but we'll see. This is a very big play with nobody out.
if it stands, it will be second and third, nobody out. If it does not stand, Lobaton will be out. Taylor will be at second. And they're done looking at it. He is safe. I think you're probably right. I think stands is the way that it goes.
So it does go as a single and taking second base on the throw. So Don Cooper now comes out from the dugout. The bullpen is up and going. The 6th inning has been somewhat of a trouble spot for Miguel Gonzalez, who was almost letter perfect through 5.
Tomorrow, June 10th, come see the White Sox take on the Kansas City Royals at 7:10 p.m. All fans are invited to stay for a spectacular postgame fireworks show presented by Magellan Corporation. Purchase tickets today at WhiteSox.com or call 866-SOX-GAME.
Putnam and Duke, the dueling Zacks.
Second and third. And Gonzalez steps off for a moment.
They're in close at the corners. Lobaton does not have any speed, so you don't have to be all that far in. They're back in the middle trying to stay out of the big inning.
Saladino coming home and out at the plate. Lobaton chopped down by Tyler Saladino.
Fortunately, the catcher running. Good play by Tyler Saladino, and that changes the complexion of the inning completely. That ball actually moved back to Saladino's left. He was able to plant, get the throw off. Not a great throw, but it's quick enough. Yanner moves across, makes the tag. Lobaton is out, pending a challenge by Dusty Baker.
This is also a very close play.
Yes, it is.
When did the tag come down?
Well, it came down in time, it appeared. Right there, it looked like he got him. And I think Dusty's going to play on. Good quick throw. With Lobaton's speed, you just got to get it to the catcher. And he tags the left foot before the right hits the plate.
He got a late start coming home.
Yeah, not well. I mean, that's not. He was going on contact, obviously, but it might have been a play where you're better served staying where you are.
First and second, one out, and a bouncer to Worth, ball 1. Jason Worth has struck out twice, both swinging.
Outfield a shade toward right center. They'll keep playing straightaway left, so there is a bit of a gap in left center.
Outside edge to Worth, ball and a strike. Nationals came into this series having grounded into only 35 double plays, tied for 4th in Major League Baseball. No contact there, 1 and 2 for Worth.
You'd love to be able to cut that ball away from Worth. He seems to be pulling off the ball somewhat. We'll see where Deanna wants it.
To that point about the double play, the Sox have coerced a pair in this series, one from Jason Worth in the first inning of game 1. Maybe another one. Frazier, Laurie, Abreu, double play, 5-4-3. 3-1 it stays.
Puig put on the disabled list with a hamstring problem that has been plaguing him. And David Wright with a herniated disc in his neck along with spinal stenosis. He's on the DL also. The injury report is brought to you by Dr. Anthony Romeo Orthopedics. If you have any shoulder or elbow problems, go to RomeoOrthopedics.com or call 312-432-2342. And what a great job of getting off the hook by Miguel Gonzalez. Second and third, nobody out.
Strong infield defense, too. Saladino the throw home. Frazier around the horn starting the double play.
Another great play at third because that ball also was a rocket. So that's two of them hit awfully hard. And Todd Frazier's made the play twice.
Spoiled foul, 1-2 on Frazier. Sox leading 3-1 on the strength of a 3-run first inning, trying to get back to 500. The open plate today, the Sox did under 500 for the first time all year. They hope a very brief stint. Gio Gonzalez reaches back for a fastball to strike out Frazier in the 7th punch-out tonight.
Here's our fourth drive of the game, and it's Milwaukee on a curveball, slicing it to right center field. Taylor can't get to it. He drives in a couple of runs, puts the Sox on top. Our fourth drive of the game.
Milwaukee takes strike one.
So you're Houston. You're going to Texas.
Am I?
Yeah, a team that you've had some trouble with. And you're ecstatic to leave Texas because they lost once again today. There is Milwaukee.
Boy, you know, when one team has your number, you just can't. It seems like it takes a long time to shake it.
Well, Houston's going to be awfully happy not to play the Rangers for a while, because they can't seem to manage anything.
Milwaukee a drive to left field. Heisey back at the wall. It's off the top of the fence. Double number 2 tonight for Milwaukee Cabrera.
Milwaukee thought this one was out of the ballpark. He gets a high fastball. Taking a look at it. It does not quite leave the yard, but his second double of the night. Another golden opportunity to tack a run on as Heisey goes up and can't make the play.
He went up just about as high as he can go.
That was it. That was his best bolt. Pitch number 97 on the way for Gio Gonzalez. And no activity in the pen.
Well, the Sox had the 2 Zacks up, and they've drafted 2 Zacks today. There is a Zack surplus.
And if you didn't hear, with the first pick in the draft, at the 10 spot, Zach Collins, University of Miami, went to the Sox. Power hitting, left-handed hitting catcher.
Ball one to Laurie, who doubled in a run in the first. First catcher selected by the Sox in the first round since Mark Johnson in 1994.
Well, they got, from a baseball standpoint, what they were looking for: a run-producing, powerful left-hand hitter. And the fact that he is a catcher is a huge plus.
He's put up gaudy numbers, despite gaudy power numbers, despite leading Division I baseball in walks.
Well, they got a guy with big power and selectivity, which you don't see normally going hand in hand. But because there were very few catchers that you would consider that high, turned out to be an excellent pick.
Breaking ball lost its way, 2-1 on Laurie.
That's the first telltale sign that you might be losing it, is a rolling breaking ball. Let's see if the Sox can get to Gonzalez before he departs this one.
Strike 2. Javi Garcia next, then Navarro.
Pitch number 101 on the way. And there you look at the numbers. 7 strikeouts.
Make it 8. Certainly not afraid to throw that breaking ball late in counts. And 2 away.
Even though he just got a piece of it, it stuck in the glove. And just barely in the glove. Now they're talking about what they want to do with Garcia, despite the fact he hasn't had the ball out of the infield. They do have first base open. You've got Navarro in the on-deck circle.
Javi's gone back to the mound. He's bounced out to third. After a 2-hit night last night, he's 0 for 2 this evening. Strike called. Lobaton brought it up a little bit. Plate umpire Eric Cooper.
We talked about the pitcher's plate, and there's an example of it.
Even at 90, tough to hit that high fastball.
Can't get on top of it up there. Not that far up and out of the zone.
Two-strike pitch. High fastball. Inning over. He struck out the side with a double in between after 6. 3-1 Sox. Gonzalez, 3 hits, 1 earned run. He struck out 5, Steve.
He was absolutely brilliant tonight. And the Houdini act of getting out of the 6th inning was miraculous. 2nd and 3rd, nobody out. Heisey and Worth both went down. And it keeps the lead heading to Zach Duke.
He faces Bryce Harper. Harper saw him yesterday and doubled down the left field side in inning number 6.
And Todd Frazier now shifting around, coming in a little bit.
Saladino gets around it to the right side of second for out number 1.
We'll take a look at what Zach Duke has done this year. On for the 33rd time, his ERA just under 3.5. So he's got to face the potent part of a very stout lineup. He retired Harper, now he's got Murphy and Zimmerman.
I mentioned the appearance number for Zach Duke. 33 is the most in Major League Baseball for a pitcher, ahead of Sam Dyson, Hector Neris, and Josh Osich of the Giants, the 3rd in that tie for 2nd, entering play today. We have an edition of Sticks and Stone tonight as well, despite the Nationals not existing when you face Major League hitters.
True. Even the Senators weren't existing.
Oh, just the House of Representatives?
That's all there was.
No bicameral system?
No, or 2 houses.
1 and 2 for Murphy, whose home run broke up the perfect game and the shutout in the 5th inning.
Robin knowing the importance of this one.
Oh, he quick pitched him a little bit. Duke got him swinging.
Could very well be that he has Zach face the 2 left-handers because the bullpen is up and going, and I think that's what's going to happen because Jason and I were talking between innings. If there's anything such as a must-win in early June, this would be it. So Zach Duke came on. He got the 2 left-handers, Harper and Murphy. Robin is going to take him out of the ball game. A job well done. As he walks out, we'll step out and be back after these messages.
This Sunday, June 12th at U.S. Cellular Field. We're offering specially priced tickets to all of Southpaw's friends and fans. To purchase specially priced tickets, visit whitesox.com/SPB Day. New pitcher, Mr. Stone.
Nate Jones comes on. And he's going to face Zimmerman. On for the 26th time. He's 2-1 ERA, just a touch over 3. But opponent's hitting just 179, which is a testament to the stuff that he has, which if he gets it around the plate, he's awfully tough to deal with.
Zimmerman saw one pitch last night from Nate Jones, and he flied it out to right field, foul ground, for the first out of the 7th inning.
That was the night of emptying the bullpen.
And then some, with J.B. Shuck returning to his glorious years in Columbus, Ohio, pitching like he was a Buckeye again.
Putnam, Jennings, Duke, Jones, Robertson, Albers, and then J.B.
Ball and a strike on Zimmerman, who grounded to third and flied out to right his first 2 times this evening.
I'm wondering how J.B. Shuck's arm is feeling today. They had the gun where he was timed at 87, 88, and 89.
We were talking to Sox radio color analyst Darren Jackson on the way out of the ballpark last night. He said he pitched for San Diego at one point in his career. He said, I felt it for a long time afterward.
Well, he went a couple of innings, though. I mean, going 2 innings, he gave up 1 run. Said that although it was a thrill, not one that he wanted to relish again anytime soon.
Yeah, let's not do that again.
No. 2 innings, a long way to go for a position player who doesn't pitch.
1-2. Shank foul by Zimmerman, right side.
That was a 91-mile-an-hour slider. You don't find many of those around, and when you do, and it's on the outside corner, you don't find many guys who can continue the at-bat after fouling it off.
He gets him, strike 3, 91 again with break. And Jones completes the top of the 7th. Stretch time, 3-1 Sox.
Around the major leagues.
Cleveland, Seattle of interest tonight to Sox fans. Could be a 2.5 game deficit going into that series with the Royals, who have fallen on rough and tumble times after the sweep.
As you know, when Miami and Minnesota lock it up, you can throw out the record books in that one.
In fact, it's advisable. That's the battle of the climates. Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota's been struggling somewhat right now, and you're right, Kansas City is struggling with the best of them in baseball. Losers of 7 games in a row. And they find themselves 2.5 games back. But again, best part of this Central is that not one team has jumped out and put together 15, 16, 17 wins out of 20.
Tomorrow, game 1 of that Kansas City series, Ian Kennedy, Chris Sale, your pitching matchup. Then Chris Young and Jose Quintana. Day 2, Danny Duffy versus Tim Bradley Aronson. It's TBA.
I remember him.
Yeah.
He was really good.
Yeah. Yet to be announced, there is no Tim Aronson on the Sox roster. Please don't tweet. But the TV guys said.
However, there might be tomorrow, the way things have gone lately.
God.
But the status quo just wasn't acceptable. So you make whatever moves you think you can make and see how it plays out.
Ground ball, Daniel Murphy, 1 out, and time for tonight's edition of Sticks and Stone, where we ask Steve Stone about his own career. How'd you do against the sometimes irascible Tim Foley.
He was a fiery guy, as I recall. I played against him in A-ball. He was at Visalia with the Mets. I was at Fresno. In the major leagues, what I didn't like was the fact that he choked up on the bat quite a bit. Had good bat control. I'm not thinking I did great against him, but I'm also not thinking that he hit too many balls out of the park. One of the few guys who didn't hit home runs off me. I mean, he was no Dwayne Kuiper, but we'll check it out. I don't think it was great. I think because he made contact, he did okay.
Check swing and a strike. 0-2 for Saladino. Tim Foley, who met his eventual wife in Montreal. He was playing in Montreal. She was an ice dancer for the Montreal Canadiens hockey club.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How many assists did she have that year?
One and two. Got him swinging with another hook, and Gio Gonzalez has fanned 10 tonight. 2 down. Here's your answer to Sticks and Stone. Not the question you asked, the question we asked of you. Tim Foley, how do you do against Steve Stone? 346.
Told you, with good bat control, choking up on the bat, couldn't hit the ball out of the park, but pretty good, solid numbers. I was happy when he retired.
Were you at the press conference?
Well, I bid him a fond farewell. Thank you very much for the close to 350 batting average, and I will talk with you another day. Little did I know at that point that he would be recalled in the Sticks and Stones segment of the broadcast. Yeah, had I known that that was going to exist, I probably would have tried to get him out.
So it was a lack of effort.
Absolutely.
2-0 for Eaton and a little stroll for Gio Gonzalez. Originally a draft pick by the Sox. Twice a Chicago White Sox player. Eventually traded away.
The pen is up and going. Sean Kelly, who we saw last night, he did not fare very well. Didn't matter at the time. He came in with a huge lead. Gave away a bit of it. 3 runs on 2 hits.
Shortstop Espinosa up to throw, and Danny Espinosa aces Eaton. What a play by the sleek Washington shortstop. 1-2-3 inning for Gonzalez.
Sox have hit the Nationals 5-3. It's been an errorless game. Miguel Gonzalez, brilliant. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run. That's the home run. And he had a perfect game into the 5th inning.
He was spelled by Zach Duke to start the 7th. Nate Jones with the final out of the 7th, and Nate still on to face Anthony Rendon, Danny Espinosa, and Jose Lobaton scheduled for Washington in the 8th. Off of Jones, Saladino's on it, and the Sox get a pinball first out.
A big break, and hopefully Nate Jones is okay, because that one was ticketed up the middle for a base hit to lead off the 8th with a power man coming up next. Rendon hit it just about as hard as you could. Nate deflecting it. So on the Mazda replay, back up the middle. You can only guess how he did get a piece of that. And a good play by Saladino after the deflection.
By the way, if you want good medical care, be a pitcher who's had a ball hit toward him. Everybody starts asking him. Abreu asked him, Frazier asked him, the dugout asked him. He said, I'm fine. Let's go.
Well, it's time to tell you that Honda Game Summary was brought to you by Honda, which you probably guessed. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda now at your Honda dealer.
Get you a great deal on Gene Honda, too. It's just a couple booths over.
You know, the sad part about it is nobody wants his signed baseball.
It's been on the prize shelf, but maybe it's been the location. Maybe it hasn't been prominently displayed enough.
The location being, you mean, on the prize shelf?
It is tough when it's not on the shelf. That ball is crushed by Espinosa to the wall. Eaton is there. Oh, he's loving it.
Well, he did it pretty well as he goes and drifts back to the wall, knows exactly where he's at, then makes the play. This ball is hit awfully hard, and the wind must have shifted because normally this is out of the park. And Adam, drifting to the wall, goes up and makes the catch. It would have stayed in the park, would have been at least 2 bases. So 2 up, 2 down for Nate Jones, and the wind played a big part in keeping that one in play.
What an outstanding year Adam Eaton has had. It's to the point where when he goes back on a ball or over on a ball, you expect he's going to get there.
Well, it's hard to conceive that there's too many, if any, right fielders who've had a better defensive year, because he's made all the throws he's had to make. He's made plays coming in, going to both sides, made plays against the wall. And after a tough year defensively last year in center, by his own admission, he said just a very bad year, he's played a great right field.
Nate Jones with 3 pitches to Lobaton to get rid of him. 3-1 after 7.5.
Check out the White Sox baseball blog at WGNTV.com, sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your local nationwide insurance agent, serving the area for 38 years. To join the nation, visit jeffvuk.com because Nationwide is on your side. We've got a new pitcher coming in the game after a fine job by Gio Gonzalez, and it is Sean Kelly. On for the 26th time, his ERA a little over 3.
You and I both were asked today, separately and together, why in the world did Dusty Baker make that pitching change late in the game in the 9th inning last night in such a blowout game? And this may be the answer right here, to make sure Kelly could go if needed the next day.
Well, that would have to be it, limit his pitches, because Perez had been in the first game of the series, came on for a third of an inning in a blowout game, and saving some pitches for his big right-hander.
Anthony Rendon loads up a throw for out number 1. White Sox fans, don't let aches and pains keep you from doing the things you love to do. Schedule an appointment at any of our 340 facilities by visiting athletico.com/appointments. Athletico, the official physical therapy provider of the Chicago White Sox. Athletico, better for everybody. One down for Abreu, who walked and scored in the first.
The Yankees beating the Angels tonight 6-3. Yankees now at 500, and the reason why that becomes of premier importance around baseball is that the Yankees have 3 guys in their bullpen. They're not going to get rid of Betances. They have talked about Andrew Miller. You would think that Miller would be the guy, but Aroldis Chapman is one of those guys where if they fall out, he's going to be tremendously valuable, even being a free agent at the end of the year. Miller you have under control for quite some time.
High fly ball from Jose. Taylor claims out number 2. It's part of Sox Serve Week. The White Sox Wives and White Sox Volunteer Corps is celebrating Southpaw's birthday. Bring a new unwrapped toy on Sunday, June 12th to drop off at locations at any U.S. Cellular Field gate. $10 cash donations are also accepted.
The reason why everybody is taking a look at the New York Yankees is because they have gold, and that is 2 hard-throwing left-handed potential closers. Chapman is a closer. Miller can be a closer. And so if New York stays in, they will not move those guys. If they don't, they can rebuild their entire organization by trading both of them, but certainly they can step forward in an organization that's been decimated, by the way, and rebuild with Miller.
That's the interesting thing about the new wild card era with the 2 wild cards, is that you have more teams that feel like players at the trade deadline in terms of buyers rather than sellers.
It opens things up and it puts more teams in contention. So a normal trading deadline wouldn't be the same, but it doesn't preclude teams from making deals after the deadline. You just have to get waivers, and that's usually high contracts.
Guys that you don't want to take the whole thing.
Right? You try to pass them through waivers, they get claimed. If you pull them back, then you can play let's make a deal.
Two and 2 on Frazier. You think the wild card condenses the trade deadline a little bit, squeezes you, makes it tougher to find a good deal?
Well, I do believe that more teams will hold what they have instead of being sellers at the deadline.
Off speed, strike 3. Kelly with a 1-2-3-8. Sox need 3 outs and they lead by 2. David Robertson getting tuned up. MLB.com at Bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Save situation. D-Rob's in.
He's coming on with a 2-run lead to protect the bottom part of the order and a speed burner in Michael Taylor.
Taylor a long fly ball. Melky Cabrera has room short of the warning track. Out number 1.
And he appears not to be 100%. Navarro went out there, and here comes Hermy and Robin. Hopefully he's okay. You see the front foot slide, and he goes down, and right there in some pain.
Then immediately turned his attention to the fly ball.
Fly ball was hard hit. Fortunately stayed in the park.
You ever have that happen?
I think anybody who's ever pitched has that happen every now and then. What you try to do is then dig out around that area where the landing foot hits and hope you get a whole lot of clay underneath so you can keep your footing.
In search of his first save of the month, Robertson pins Heisey with a strike. 0-1. Upstairs at 93, 1-2.
On our Xfinity Speed replay, we'll take a look at one of the big plays in the game as Saladino cuts down Lobaton at the plate. It was with second and third and nobody out. Gonzalez got out of the inning with a double play ground ball.
That's a fastball right down the middle for strike 3.
Heisey was guessing ball because I don't know what you can be looking for. Take a look at this. It couldn't be more down the middle, and it was a fastball that he got and couldn't pull the trigger. The Speed replay was brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV.
Ten in a row retired by Sox pitching. And Jason Worth with 2 down in the 9th. Takes a strike.
Worth has not been hitting the ball away tonight.
All 3 of his hits yesterday went to the pull side.
Eric Cooper trying to shake it off. And Navarro asking if he's okay. And apparently he is.
Two-one. Strike 2.
If Jason Worth is still trying to figure out that it will be a big plate with Eric Cooper behind the plate, he hasn't been too observant tonight.
Struck out in the first, struck out in the 4th. Double play ground ball, a pivotal double play in the 6th. 2-2. High ball 3. Bryce Harper is on deck.
Here's where you want to throw it down the middle and say hit it as hard as you can. If he hits it out, that's fine. Don't walk him ahead of Harper.
Payoff. He did, and Worth popped it foul.
That's what you're looking for, just a strike. You got 7 guys behind you to try to make the play and make sure that you don't have to face Harper again in this ball game or any time in the regular season this year.
3-2. Worth proving to be a worthy combatant. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Three-two. Saladino to first. Not in time. Tying run coming up.
That keeps it alive, and Tyler had the play. The ball was in the glove as he went to make the transfer. It dropped out. So it will stay alive for Harper as we take another look. Hard hit ball, but he's got the play. Then on the transfer, he drops it, and it goes as a base hit.
So Bryce Harper, who's bounced out twice and flied out once. That is a base hit through the shift. First and third, 2 out. Robin can only wait for out number 27.
And Murphy, the man whose leadoff home run in the 5th inning, is the only run of the ball game for the Nationals.
Major League Baseball's leading hitter is charged with continuing the Nationals rally. The Nats were down to their final strike. Worth singled. Harper is singled on the very next pitch. Murphy. Long fly ball. Melky is there. And the Sox win the finale. On the edge. But it's win number 30.
Had him all the way. It was in the bag. As David Robertson chalks up a nail-biting save. And a win at the end of the series. We'll take a look at a hard hit ball. This one on the outer third. Murphy drives it a long way, but Melky there.
And the Sox celebrate. They're back to 500, 30 up, 30 down. They win the finale against the Nationals. And we will wrap it up after this from Chicago.